It's a good day to have a good day. Hello, everybody. My name's Cece Ray. Thanks for joining me here at Break the Dish, where we break the news and dish out the tea. We are recapping the Real Housewives of Potomac, the reunion part 3. Oh boy, did it start out spicy. And I mean spicy. But before we get into it, you know what to do. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because here we break the dish. We are recapping the Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 10, The Reunion, Part 3. We're picking it up right where we left off. If you recall correctly, liar, pants on fire. The whole question is, did Stacey get in contact with Chris Samuels? And did she tell Chris Samuels that allegedly Monique was filming with her children? Well, let me tell you, Monique has entered the stage and she is wasting no time at all springing out her cell phone. Now, she says to Andy and everyone, I know the viewers won't be able to see this, but I want you to all see this. And she puts up the cell phone so everybody's like watching intently. Now, I could be wrong. A little birdie said this, that the person who gave her this information was one of her kids. Mm-hmm. So that stands to reason, like, why would one of her children lie, right? I mean, why? So she's got her cell phone up there, and Andy says to Stacey, did you tell Chris that Monique was filming with her children? Stacey's like, just as well clutch those pearls, girl. I literally went through divorce. I've been through custody. Why would I do that? I'm worried about my husband, who I live with. I'm worried about my family. Why would I do your family harm? Hello? She never quite said no. See how this one works? Yeah. So Andy then says, well, why would this person make it up? And, why would this person say all of that? Then Andy specifically asked Stacey, were you in contact with Chris Samuels while in production? Stacey turns around with, as straight as an arrow, and says, no. Liar, pants on fire. Let's think about this a second. We have text messages. We have video footage of you saying you were in contact with Chris Samuels. But you weren't in contact with Chris Samuels. Mind-blowing, right? So, Monique says that she catches her actually on it, and she's like, you showed me text messages before I even entered the group. Then Kay jumps into the middle of the conversation. She says to Monique, listen, I thought that you were very vulnerable when we were all at lunch. You were, telling us about your divorce and, how much you've changed and, really talk to us about your journey. She's like, that day when I got in the car after filming, Cookie told me that Stacey was in contact with Chris Samuels. And that basically, like, if things didn't get straightened out, he was going to serve you with a, what is it called? A cease and desist. Stacey just looks at Monique. She's like, we're talking about Cookie. We're talking about you, Stacey. Like, oh my goodness. Then Andy says he says in general, I take a look at, expressions, body language. And then Andy says to Wendy, I've been watching you. And it almost looks like you're looking at Stacey as though you're waiting to hear her confess. Wendy says, look, now everybody had their daggers at this chick at first, but now, like, it's in real time. The tides have turned. And she's like, this is on a whole different level. No response from Stacey, by the way. I mean, zero. Zippo. But then Wendy says to Monique, who do you believe? Monique says, well, I'm going to believe this person. Tia turns around and says, and the best one was then Stacey turns around, looks at Monique, and says, I beg you to be smarter than this. Seriously, Stacey? Tia says, look, I think that you explaining your journey, sharing, all the healing you've been through, when you share this, you carry other women along, which is true. And then Tia says to Stacey, you keep saying your family, your family. Look at what she is going through with her family. Like, it's serious. And it really is serious. Listen, let me just put this out here. Because I need to voice my opinion here. Liar, pants on fire. Stacey Rush. Everybody is so admired by her. Like, what a fantastic housewife she is. They're not saying that because she's good at the shadiness or anything like that. It's because she's such a liar. I mean, they gave her a certificate, like they awarded her best performance. And let me just remind you that everybody shouldn't be surprised either. She was a host on QVC. Do you think that when she's selling that bracelet on QVC, that she truly believes that this is the best bracelet you can buy? No. It's her job to make you think that. It's basically her job to lie to you. And now she's a housewife, and she's lying to everybody again. I mean, we could have 100 pieces of text messages. We could have 100 pieces of video footage of her lying. And Stacey, liar, pants on fire, will be, no, I didn't lie. However, on a serious note, because of these lies, this could have caused a lot of harm to Monique's family. It was on the way there. And at one point, you have to take accountability and responsibility for the words that come out of your mouth. Because what's going to happen now is that the rest of the cast is going to be like, well, I'm not messing with her. Look what she did to Monique. You know what I mean? Seriously. Liar, liar, pants on fire. So now we're seeing the package of all the different trips they took throughout the season, how all the ladies were getting along. Andy's even showing when they were at the polo event and all the ladies were singing. He got a question from a viewer. What did the AKA white group, or the white people, that is, think of the polo event? Tia says, well, I'm still gainfully employed, but this is the crazy thing. Then Tia turns around and says, and I've sold more than one house, Jassi. Then Jassi comes back and says, good, now you can support your husband. What is going on between these two? Because whatever it is, it ain't good. That's all I'm saying. And then, of course, we are now going to talk about the infamous Colorado trip. Angel wonk wonk. Andy says, you received a lot of blowback for, putting these ladies in separate houses during the trip. Angel wonk wonk. Her response is, now I see that group trips are the way the group trips are done in this group. I now see it. Girl, if you are booking for any group, I would say there's a 99.9% chance that if the group is traveling together, they probably want to stay together. Call me crazy, but it's not just in that group. Andy asked, did anybody think that Giselle was overstepping by taking the trip over? Kay, of course, she puts her hand up right away. She's like, I did, Giselle's like, no, out of the people that were there, you weren't there. You had running water. Then Angel says, look, I'm sorry that you went through that. Giselle says, yeah, you're now sorry, but we didn't get that at the time. Then Angel's like, well, I didn't even know really what was going on until I called Jassi. Giselle says, you were the host. You should be checking on everyone about everything. Angel says, well, I was taking it as priority. The priority was to solve first, which, by the way, Angel wonk wonk, you never solved anything. And then Andy asks Angel, like, how did you get so lost? Angel says, well, somebody from that location dropped me the wrong pin. Then we see on our television screens, this is from production. Production texting Angel that her staff sent the wrong pin. So the text reads, good morning, lady. The teams are mobilizing for the lake, but are concerned about the coordinates we received. Can you check where we are headed? Now, mind you, the cameras were at the lake. Remember, we saw the chef making this big lunch. the assistant setting up the table. But where was Angel Wonk Wonk? Nowhere to be found. Matter of fact, Andy even said it's the first time we've ever ended a season at a gas station. Then Angel starts going off. How she doesn't deserve the flack. She took responsibility. Even Wendy's face was like, what? And she went on to say, upon reflection, I would have done things differently. Angel Wonk Wonk. You know what she reminds me of? Angel Wonk Wonk. She reminds me of Eeyore. You know, from Winnie the Pooh? That's what she reminds me of. Don't give me any flack. Everybody's beating up on me. Somebody sent me the wrong pin. It wasn't my fault. Girl. Now, I take this in a different way than probably most people because I am in the travel business, okay? This is my suggestion for you, Angel Wonk Wonk. I would stick to only 3 excursions to 3 lakes. That's it. No more. Till you've done those excursions to those specific lakes like 1,000 times, to the point that you can describe literally the blades of the grass underneath your guests, don't do anymore. Because you don't know how to book travel. I mean, you're out in the middle of Egypt somewhere, driving around, blaming it on your staff who gave you the wrong pin. The funny thing is that the production company got there, but you didn't. It's always somebody else's fault. And in this business, you have to take responsibility. It can't always be somebody else's fault. You know, just like putting half the group in your house, half the group in a rented home. You can't split the group up. Hence the name group trip. Also, it's always helpful, that your guests have running water. That's always helpful too. Angel Wonk Wonk. Everybody's beating on me. Nobody wants to give me a chance. Angel Wonk Wonk.
Hi everyone, Cece Ray here. I wanted to tell you about one of my favorite, and I do mean favorite, websites for savings. And we all love savings. It is called Morning Save, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so see this? Now, I'm showing you this for a reason, okay? This is Dermalactives. It's a 7-in-1 LED light therapy mask. Now, you and I both know you can't find this for less than $100 anywhere, okay? I bought this for $39. Matter of fact, I bought one for my daughter too, and I bought it for $39 at Morning Save. Now, they not only just have beauty products, I mean, they have everything from fashion, home interior, organization, even sometimes cleaning supplies. But there is a catch. If you find something on that website and you don't buy it immediately, it could be gone. Just like that. Because they only have so much inventory. And when it's sold out, it's sold out. So make sure you visit Morning Save, go to the link in my description down below, and start all of your incredible savings.
Wendy reminds Karen that, she called her mother a witch. She actually didn't call her mother a witch. She was referring to others calling her a witch. So that was kind of taken out of context there. But, Karen says, look, I adore your mother. I respect your mother, especially when she told you to shut the F up. Well, everyone was like, even Andy was like, ooh. And Giselle was like, Karen. Yikes. And then we're on to Wendy and Eddie. So, they're showing you a package where, starting out in the season, Wendy's like, happy Eddie is successful. Cha-ching, cha-ching. They're remodeling everything in their home. The sitting room, the family room, the kitchen, the dining room, all the floors. They're doing it all at once. Her mother even says, wow, this cost an arm and a leg, You see where she's on the phone with her dad. She's getting support from her father. She then relates that to her mom and sister, saying that she's optimistic about the future with her father. And that's when her mom loses her mind and is like, that's all fine, but you don't have to support his ass. So now we have the Grande Dame entering the stage. That's right, Karen Huger. Let me tell you, when you're watching her actually get out of the car to go into the building, I mean, she's got this fur coat on. She flips her hair around. I mean, she's entering with an entourage. I mean, seriously. But she enters the stage, and Giselle was saying, she was genuinely concerned about Karen, being wild and in the streets and, but she said, what happened to her needed to happen. Ashley says, she agrees and she truly believes that, she felt as though she owned a lot of her stuff. Andy then asks everybody, how does it feel to have Karen back? Giselle says, super excited. Ashley's like, amazing, like old times. Wendy said, I'm glad to see that you are on the other side of things. Monique was genuinely happy. Andy asked, who was the most supportive? Karen said, Giselle. She said, she made me smile without seeing me. And then she gave a for instance that Giselle would leave notes in her mailbox. And she said to Giselle, I got them, I have them, and I kept them. Andy says, you watched the season. How did it feel hearing Giselle talk about how she wished that, at jail you were in the elderly wing? Karen says, I ignored her ass. Then the funny thing is, and the whole time she's on stage, and listen, I'm not saying she's medicated, anything like that, but did you get the sense that she wasn't all there? Like, it could be the fact that she wasn't there the whole season, so maybe she was playing catch up, or you know what I mean? But I got this impression that her eyes were half open and closed. Does that make sense? Even to the point, actually, that when Andy's referring to Stacey, she literally looks down the row like, where is she? To the point that Stacey goes, are you looking for me? Because I'm sitting right next to you. And then Karen says to Stacey, did you lie? She's like, what do you mean? Yeah, what do you mean? Which time? She said, well, last year you lied about your boyfriend. Whoa. And, now you're dating Chris Samuels. not dating Chris Samuels, are you lying? Because I don't like lying. I'm willing to have new beginnings, but I can't handle lying. Stacey's like, good luck with that, Karen. Then Andy says, it's been 4 months since you left jail. How's sobriety going? Karen says, it's wonderful. I'm in recovery for life. That means in all levels. And I am at peace. Andy says, when we did our sit down, I noticed that you weren't quite comfortable with the word alcoholic. Karen says, and I'm still not. It's a personal choice. I own everything. And when you own everything, it empowers you. And women who choose to live sober, it's empowering. And complete sobriety recovery is what she plans on doing for the rest of her life. Or until next season. No, I'm just kidding. Then Andy reflects at BravoCon. Everybody stood up for her. I did kind of find that was a really weird. I mean, think about it. Everybody's standing up for you because you're out of jail. Are they going to do that for Jen Shaw? You know what I mean? It's just weird. But he says, a lot of people think that you're not facing your addiction, that you're not taking responsibility, or maybe you shouldn't even be on this platform. Giselle jumps right in, says she served her time. She's been accountable. Monique says, to know Karen is to know that there's walls up. And the only time she ever saw those walls go down is when her parents died. And she said, the walls are down now. You're owning it. And I'm proud of you. Andy says, that was a big thing, is that the entire cast, for the most part, was constantly saying last season that you were in denial. And when we had our sit down, you consistently said that you were in denial. Matter of fact, you collaborated with Ashley's story of legal seafood. Remember, she was talking to like a bartender or a server there, and this person said she came in all the time, day drinking. And Karen said, yeah, it's true. But then she says, Wendy is the one that's lying, though. She doesn't believe that, because Wendy had a similar story. She's like, Wendy's lying, though. I don't believe that anybody is talking to you. And she's looking at Wendy. Andy says, Wendy kind of took it personal because basically you thanked everybody but her last season. Karen says it's important to deal with reality. I was betrayed by you. When you told Stacey, I'm not a girl's girl, you betrayed me. Wendy says, no, you betrayed yourself. Then they show you 3 months later or 4 months later, in October of 2025, Wendy and Eddie get arrested. You see Giselle and Ashley and I forget who else was in the room, but they weren't saying really anything bad. They were just saying, Giselle was saying that, look, the feds don't come in and arrest you unless they've got a case against you. Angel was kind of interesting. Angel wonk wonk. Here we go again, Angel wonk wonk. Let's make it all about you. Angel Wong Wong says that the accusations against me, everybody was coming at me so that no one would look in her direction. And I hope that justice is served. Mm-hmm. Angel Wong Wong. Wendy said this has been hell for her family. And when you're going through something like this, everybody else's opinions, it just doesn't matter. Kay said that she was completely shocked. She felt that the dynamic allowed their with everything going on with what Wendy was going through, allowed their relationship to suffer because she was going through this, which I'm not sure I agree with. I don't think Giselle did either. Matter of fact, Giselle said she felt the opposite. She did not think Wendy knew anything, and that her and Wendy had worked on their relationship, that her heart goes out to her kids, but she couldn't remember if this conversation had happened before or after, but she said she remembered having a conversation, and then they did show you the clip where Wendy's like, I don't know how to pay my mortgage. I don't even know what electric company we're with. And that's what made Giselle disappointed. Wendy said, look, my home was broken into 2024. I came back from vacation, and she said her daughter went upstairs and she heard her daughter say Zoe made a mess. Now, Zoe is the family dog. And Wendy said in her mind, she was thinking, that's weird because Zoe was at the doggy hotel. Why would, her daughter be saying that? Then Eddie went to go see what she was talking about. He came back downstairs and said, something's happened. We need to call 911. We've been burglarized. Why she's saying this is that it relates to Kay's statement. This had nothing to do with their relationship. And then in October 2025, she was sleeping when Eddie woke her up and said, the cops are here. She said she went running out and she was yelling, are my kids okay? Are my kids okay? And the officer said, your kids are fine. He said, do you remember me? And she said, oh yeah, huh? Did you catch the burglars? He's like, there was no burglary. Karen says she wishes the kids best. Her heart goes out to them. She was hoping that this all would be dismissed so that Wendy would return home to her children. But when she said, shut the F up, this is what she was referring to. It was just taken out of context. If I were you, I wouldn't answer any of these questions today. You're talking too much. Like, I'm begging you. I don't want to see you go to jail. You need to stop interviewing. It's not helping you. When you talk, they watch, they listen, they hear. Again, she just wishes her and Eddie the absolute best. Wendy says prior to the reunion, her legal counsel was informed, and they were aware of the line of questioning. She did not divulge anything that has not been stated in public record. Karen says, well, I hope you're telling the truth. Because even if you are, it can get twisted, and I don't see it in your favor. Think about the kids. I think why Karen's saying this is because and I'm going to say allegedly on this, she's saying, we came home from Jamaica, we came home from vacation, and we were burglarized. They're saying there was no burglary. Maybe she's using this platform as another way to say, we believed we were burglarized. We believed it. Possibly. You know what I mean? And then, Andy says, look, there's been a couple narratives that have been running. You were helping your mom financially. You were renovating your home. You were basically trying to keep up with the Joneses, is basically what he was saying. And this is why you did what you did. Wendy said, I really don't care what narrative they want to go with. It's on them. Andy says there was 67 credit cards in multiple aliases, including Pam Oliver, Eddie Hennessy. Wendy says, my counsel responded to that. It was corrected. That was just for us to receive packages and deliveries. Okay. As of me making this recording today, that has not been straightened out in court. Matter of fact, the opposite. The judge is allowing the prosecution to now look into Wendy and Eddie's finances back 8 years to prove that they were in substantial debt. This is why they did what they did. And according to what I read, I'm going to say allegedly on it, those 67 credit cards aren't going away. I'm just saying. Even Andy said, look, there's a lot of evidence here. A lot. Then he even Giselle said that the case they're presenting, I mean, it's strong. Wendy just says, we're going to have to see how it plays out. Then Andy says to Wendy, look, you've always stood out to me as a housewife. You were a role model. You led with education, love of family, culture, faith. Wendy says, thank you for believing in me, but we're going to have to see how it plays out. Andy then says to Karen, listen, do you have any advice for her? I think Karen gave her really good advice. She said, we are Black women. We're hit with adversities in life, but we rise. And when you become real with yourself, you will find the better version of you. Wendy said that she's not on the other side of this yet. Right now, she's in the valley. And when you're in the valley, you see a side of yourself that you normally probably wouldn't see, but it builds humility and strength. And even though they're not out of the storm, she is a better woman for being in the storm. Well, what else is she going to say? I mean, seriously. What else is she going to say? We're talking, 16 counts of fraud? And the prosecution is building a huge case against them. None of us know how it's going to turn out, including her. Do I think she's going to be filming next season? Yes. If anybody's got a storyline, Wendy does now. I also think it's going to turn out to be one of these like sit downs, like Karen before she goes to jail, Jen Shaw before she went to jail, Teresa Giudice before she went to jail. You know what I mean? I know that they had their house for sale. I don't know if it's sold yet or not. There is a lot going on, and they do have young children. They really do. But we are only hearing from the prosecution. We have not heard from the defense. So like she said, just have to wait and see how it plays out in court. So then Karen and Monique, they leave the stage. Andy goes around and says, I would like all of you ladies to answer basically what you've learned this season. Angel Wonk Wonk says, I learned that I can be zen and calm and still have a voice. Tia says, I'm quite naive about saying things without thinking about the damage it could cause someone. So I'd like to change that. Kay says, I would like to put myself in other shoes. Giselle says that she would like to embrace more the different dynamics of the whole group. Wendy says she would like to lead with kindness. Ashley says that she's always seen RHOP as a sisterhood, and this season she didn't feel like she was very sisterly. So she wants to go back to, that sisterhood. And Laya Pants on Fire said, I want to stay exactly the way I am. I don't think there was one person on that stage that didn't cock an eyebrow at her. Like, what? That's what you want to say? Good old Laya Pants on Fire. And that was the end of the season. What did you think? I think it was good. If you're going to rate reunions, what rate would you give this? I would say a 7. A good solid 7. It wasn't one of the best reunions I've ever seen. Certainly wasn't the worst either. A solid 7. I really hope that Monique becomes a full-time housewife. I believe that if she does become a full-time housewife, that's when she'll give it to Stacey. Just my opinion. Just saying. I believe the Grande Dame will be back. I believe Giselle will be back. I believe Ashley will be back. I'm not quite sure about Angel Wonk Wonk. Kay might be back. I do believe Tia will be back. I don't think Jassi will be back. If so, probably a friend of. So we'll see, won't we? We'll see. But it was a good season. And of course, I love my Potomac ladies. And I look forward to the next season too. What do you guys think? Breakers, give me your opinion. Let's start a conversation down below. And before you do, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because here we break the dish.